And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of reintroduce this idea of using BlueJ. So all the programming we do in this class is going to be using BlueJ. I know we introduced that a little bit last class. I'm going to show you BlueJ again, and then I'm going to show you some syntax rules. And syntax is just like in language, syntax is like grammar. It's the way things that are written, the rules, the weird things you have to remember, the sorts of things you might want to write down. So I'm going to click on this BlueJ symbol here. And whenever you click on BlueJ, you have to start by, in BlueJ, there's two words. You can call it a project or a package. Now, it says project here, so I'm going to go ahead and left click on project and do a new project. And the name of the project can be anything you want. It doesn't really matter, but usually it pertains to the idea of what you're doing. So right today we're doing basics. Okay, so I'm just going to call this basics. And where you store the project is important. I recommend you store it somewhere that will allow you to access it from multiple locations. So if you have a flash drive, that would be good, or the H drive. The H drive will allow you to access everything from campus. So I've got a new folder here for period 3. Oops. And I'm going to create my project in this period 3 folder. And it's just the basics. Okay. Now, every project is made up of classes. And a class is just like a set of instructions that does something. So I'm going to make a new class here. And the name of the class is important because it should describe what the program does. And so this particular class is, we're going to just talk about printing things. So I'm going to call it printing. Now the rules for naming classes is that each word, the first letter needs to be capitalized. All right, so capital P for printing there. I'm going to say, okay, so in what I see in BlueJ now, in this basics project in printing, is I see this box with some diagonal lines in it. That simply means that I've got some code that hasn't been compiled yet. So I need to, when I compile the code, what that means is we're going to speak English to Java, and Java is going to speak to the computer. The computer doesn't understand English. The computer only understands ones and zeros. It's called assembly language. We talk to Java. We give Java commands, and then Java takes those commands and changes it to ones and zeros so the computer understands. All right, so you can do that by opening the editor here. And when you open the editor, you're going to see a whole bunch of nasty stuff in there. We don't want any of that nasty stuff, so I'm just going to delete all of it, except for the class printing. Now at the top there, you've got some comments. You see the comments in green. And what I want you to get in the habit of doing is just putting your name, period, and then the assignment, if there is one. Maybe like a description of what the program does. So this is just going to be practice printing some outputs here, okay? Now, every class has methods, and sometimes a class has multiple methods. By the end of the year here, we're going to be doing classes that have maybe 4 or 5 different methods. Today, we're just going to do the basic one, which is the main method. And the main method looks kind of scary, but you're going to write it like 10,000 times, so you're going to get really used to it. Don't let it scare you. You don't have to understand what it means just yet. But what it is public static void main string, capital S for string, and then a couple of array brackets there, and then args. If I was going to write something down to remember, this is something that I'm going to want to remember because this is going into literally every single Java program I'm going to write. Now, a lot of times I'm going to give you some starter code, and it's going to already have it in there, so you're not going to have to like physically type it out. You're just going to copy and paste it in there. But it's an important thing to remember that every single program has a main method. And this is it, public static void main. Now, because it's a method, it needs another set of curly brackets. And look what BlueJ's automatically done for me. the indentation's important. So see how in the class, we've got an open and a closed bracket that are lined up, and inside the method, there's an open and closed bracket that are lined up. I want you to do that. You don't have to do that. BlueJ usually does it for you automatically, but if you line them up, if you indent them like that, you'll always make sure that you've got an open one and a closed one. And that's important because you want to have at least, for every one that opens, you need one that's closed. And if you don't, BlueJ is going to yell at you. It'll give you a little red bar over here. Say there was an error. So now that I've got this method, I can start doing stuff. Like I can print stuff out. Now, I've learned Python, I've learned C++, and I've learned R. And to print something in all of those languages, the command is print. But in Java, it's a little bit more complicated. It's capital S for system.out.print. And we can put anything we want in there, like the name of this class, computer science. Now, there's a couple of important things I want to draw your attention to. Just some vocabulary that I want you to be aware of. The word out is the reference. The word print is the command. And then what's inside the parentheses is called the string. Yes?
Isn't it print in?
So, you are right where I want you to be. There's two kinds of print and print line. And I've seen this on the AP exam like 100 times. They ask, what's the difference between print and print line? So let's explore that. There are two different commands and they do two different things. So what we're trying to figure out here is what's the difference between print and print line. So I've got some here that are print, and I've got some of them are print line. All of them have a string inside of them. All of them have a command. All of them have the reference of out. When you're typing system, make sure the S is capitalized. I see that mistake a lot. The question is, what's the difference between print and print line? How is Java going to handle that? What's going to be the difference there? So let's test it out. Once you've got some commands, you want Java to be able to talk to the machine. You want Java to take these commands and change it to assembly code, ones and zeros. So we're going to compile it. And when you compile it, nothing really happens because all Java did is take your words and change it into ones and zeros. Now, if you actually want to run the program, you can come over here to the class, right-click on it, click on void main, and then click OK. And let's figure out what happened here. Because when I wrote the code, it was 4 lines, and now I only see 2 lines. Right there was a print statement. This was a print line. And this was a print, and this was a print line. So what is print line doing that print is not doing?
Print line is putting it on the same line as the last code?
Print puts it on the same line.
Oh, sorry.
So what print does is it just literally prints it, and it leaves the cursor right there. Print line prints it, and then kicks to the next line. So that's the difference. When you put that little ln there, it's saying, go to the next line. If you don't put the ln, if you just put print, it's just going to pick up right where you left off. And that's the difference. I've seen that on the AP test a bunch of times. There's going to be a multiple choice question about that. It's a simple thing, but it should be an easy multiple choice question on the AP exam. And you'll be able to mess around with that in a little bit to see exactly what it does. So that's one of the few things we need to talk about today, the difference between print and print line. The next thing we need to talk about are escape characters. So I'm going to clear my terminal. And to clear your terminal, you can either come up here to options and select clear, or you can do Control K. That's the hotkey to clear it out. If you don't clear out your terminal, the next time you run a program, that old stuff's still going to be there. So Control K clears it out. K for clear. It makes a lot of sense, right? All right, let's keep going. Jokes aside. So if I wanted to do something, let me just get rid of these 3 lines of code here. Like I wanted to tab this over. I've got 2 options to tab that over. I could literally hit the tab key right there and it's going to tab it over. Or there's some escape keys that Java knows that will tab it over for me. Like I could do, and the escape keys are always the /, so I can do /T. And there's not a tab there in that string. But now when I run it, look what that /T does. It just tabs it over. All right. There's some other ones, like if you want a new line, you could do /N. And you can see that it just puts it on a new line. Clear that out. And there's a bunch of other ones as well. Now, look what happens. Since that / is an escape key, if I wanted to just print this, Java won't let me. Look what happens when I try to compile it. It gives me an error. You see that little red box saying, you can't print that. Why can't I print that? Well, let's look and see what it says. It says that you've got an illegal print key. So a little trick in Java, if you want one /, and you might on the project we're about to do, you actually have to type it twice. Because now it's not going to read it as an escape key. It still is, but then it's realizing, oh, you didn't actually want to escape. Look what happens when I run this. So I've got 2 slashes here. When I actually run it, how many actually appear? Just the one. Okay, so to get one /, you have to type it twice. Weird thing. Go ahead.
So if you wanted 2 /, would you have to do 4? Because like if you're going to do like if you put like /T and /N on the same terminal.
So you're asking if I wanted 2 in a row, I want it to print 2 in a row. Would I have to do 2, 3, or 4? What do y'all think? How many do I actually need to type to get 2 in a row? 3 or 4? Who says it's 3? Raise your hand. Who says it's 4? I have no idea, so let's try 3. Legitimately have no idea. Oh, it didn't like that. It's giving me an error. So it's probably not 3. Let's try 4. Yeah, and the correct answer turns out to be 4. To get 2 in a row. Very interesting. Good question. Glad we got that on video so we could answer a question I didn't know the answer to. And and there's some other escape keys that you can use, but you're not going to use them most of the time. So I've got them in the notes that I've posted on Schoology, so you can go back and refer to them if it becomes an issue. You're not going to need to use most of them. All right, I'm almost done here. The last thing I want to talk about is some weird things in Java. You don't have to print a string. You can actually print math as well. So this is an AP class, right? I'm going to give you a chance to tell me or prove to me that you belong in a pre-AP course. I've got 2 lines here. What is about to be printed when I run this program? What do you think is going to happen? Go ahead.
It's going to say the result of the expression on the first line.
So 7 plus 8 plus 9, that'd be 24.
Yeah, it's going to say 24, and then on the second line, it's just going to print it as the string.
Let's see. Compile. Right click, void main, okay, you're absolutely correct. So you can print things that are strings and not strings. So even though 7 plus 8 plus 9 in parentheses looks like math, since it's in parentheses, Java's just going to print exactly what's inside those parentheses. Or sorry, the quotes. Sorry, not the parentheses and the quotes. Thank you. But since 7 plus 8 plus 9 is not in quotes, that means it's not a string. It means it's math. We're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves there. We're going to talk about math and strings a little bit, but I just wanted to introduce that idea. Okay, so I think that's all that we needed to talk about. So that's just an introduction to printing. And now we are going to practice it.